For 6 long months, the valley had grown used to the sight of the cowboy riding slowly from one homestead to another, a tiny bundle clutched against his chest, as if letting go for even a breath might steal the child away. His horse moved carefully, as though it understood the weight of desperation it carried. The cowboy's face, once hardened by sun and wind, now held a permanent tension, eyes hollow from sleepless nights, jaw clenched by a grief he never spoke aloud. His wife had died as dawn broke the day the baby was born, her final breath taken between his hands, her final request left unfinished. Since then, every sunrise felt like an accusation. The infant was too weak to cry properly, its small body trembling with hunger that cow's milk could not satisfy. He tried everything: diluted cream, herbs suggested by old men, prayers whispered into the dark, but nothing worked for long. Each failed attempt left him more afraid. Women who might have helped had their own children or their own losses. Some looked at the baby with pity, others with fear, as if getting too close might invite death into their homes. "I'm sorry," they would say, voices gentle but final. And the cowboy would nod, tip his hat, and turn away before they could see his eyes burn. At night he sat beside the fire in his small cabin, rocking the child in silence. The walls still smelled faintly of his wife's soap, and sometimes he thought he heard her footsteps, imagined her reaching out for the baby. Those moments hurt the most. He would press his forehead to the infant's blanket and whisper promises he didn't know how to keep. Promises of protection, of life, of a future beyond the next sunrise. The baby's cries grew weaker each week, and that frightened him more than screams ever could. On the morning he rode out for the 6th month in a row, the sky was heavy with clouds and the air felt thick, as if the land itself was holding its breath. The cowboy paused at the gate, looking back at the cabin, wondering if this would be the last time he saw it with the child alive in his arms. He mounted his horse not because he believed someone would finally say yes, but because giving up felt like burying his wife all over again. So he rode on, dust rising behind him, carrying what little hope he had left into a world that had so far offered him none. The river lay quiet under the late morning sun, its surface broken only by slow-moving ripples and the whisper of reeds along the bank. The cowboy had not planned to ride this way, yet his horse veered toward the water as if guided by instinct rather than reins. That was when he saw her. She stood ankle-deep in the river, sleeves rolled, dark hair braided down her back, the fabric of her dress marked with Apache symbols that told stories older than the fences, cutting the land apart. She did not startle at the sound of hooves. Instead, she turned calmly, her eyes settling not on the man, but on the infant pressed against his chest. The cowboy felt an unexpected tightness in his throat. He was used to being judged the moment people saw the child, used to pity, refusal, or silent fear, but her gaze held none of that. It was steady knowing, as if she had been expecting them. The baby stirred, a soft broken sound escaping its lips, and the woman stepped closer without hesitation. The horse stilled beneath the cowboy, and for a moment the entire world seemed to pause. "You have searched long enough," she said. Her voice was neither loud nor gentle, but carried the weight of certainty. The cowboy tried to speak, words tumbling over one another, about his wife, about the 6 months, about the fear that the baby would not last another week. He apologized for asking, for hoping, for being desperate. The woman raised her hand, stopping him. "Now I am here," she said simply, as if nothing else needed to be explained. The baby's cries faded into quiet breaths, its tiny fingers loosening their weak grip on the blanket. The cowboy felt his knees tremble, shock and disbelief washing through him. He had ridden past this river countless times, never noticing its stillness, never imagining salvation would stand barefoot in its shallows. He dismounted slowly, afraid that sudden movement might break the moment, might send her away like all the others. She touched the infant's cheek with surprising tenderness. "This child wants to live," she said, "and you have not stopped fighting for him." The cowboy swallowed hard, the weight of 6 months of failure pressing down on him all at once. He did not ask her name, did not question her reasons. In that instant, he understood that survival sometimes arrived without warning, carried by someone who asked for nothing in return. And for the first time since his wife died, hope no longer felt like a lie, he told himself. It felt real, standing there by the river, looking straight at his child. She followed him back to the cabin as the sun leaned toward afternoon, walking beside the horse with quiet confidence, as though the land itself recognized her steps. Inside the cabin, everything felt smaller than before. The low ceiling, the rough table, the single window clouded with dust. The woman took it all in without judgment. She set down her bundle, washed her hands, and reached for the child with a familiarity that made the cowboy step back, suddenly aware of how close he had been to losing everything. When she held the baby, the room seemed to breathe again. The first feeding was done in silence. The cowboy watched, barely daring to move, his heart hammering with fear that something might go wrong. But the baby latched on, stronger than he had ever seen, its tiny body relaxing as if it finally understood safety. Tears blurred the cowboy's vision. He turned away, ashamed of how quickly they fell, and pretended to busy himself with the fire. Behind him, the woman began to hum a low, steady song that wrapped around the room like warmth. Days passed, then nights. The baby's skin gained color, its breathing deepened, and its cries became demanding instead of weak. Each change felt like a miracle the cowboy was afraid to name out loud. The woman rose before dawn, tended to the child, gathered herbs, and cooked simple meals. In the evenings, she told quiet stories by the fire, stories of endurance, of loss carried without bitterness, of life returning where it was thought impossible. The cowboy listened from the shadows, learning without asking. He noticed how his own hands stopped shaking, how sleep returned in small, careful pieces. He began to repair the cabin, fix the broken fence, plan for a future he had stopped imagining. Sometimes he caught her watching him with a thoughtful expression, not curious, not distant, simply present. They did not speak of how long she would stay. When word spread through the valley that the child had survived, people came quietly, standing at a distance, whispering about the Apache woman who had saved a dying baby. The cowboy said nothing. He only watched his child sleeping peacefully and understood a deeper truth. She had not arrived to be praised or explained. She had come because life had called her, and in answering it, she had healed more than one broken soul, restoring not just a child's future, but the heart of a man who had almost forgotten how to hope.